Hello and welcome to your weekly podcast from Freestyle Media in partnership with the Magic Five. And this week I am delighted to be joined by three-time Olympian, multiple British record holder, boasting more than 30 medals at world, European and Commonwealth level. It is the legend, Fran Halsall. So welcome to the podcast, Fran.
Thanks, Joe. I don't know if I'd call myself a legend, but the 30 medals stat, I quite like that one. I might have to use that one again at some point. I didn't know that.
You are a legend. Trust me, you're a legend. So the first thing that I want to say actually is that I remember watching you at the Commonwealth Games in 2006, which I believe was your first kind of major competition.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was 14, watching it on the telly with my dad and my sister. And I mean, I was just a kid. And I guess my perception at that age of like watching athletes on the telly was that, oh, they're all adults, they're all super experienced, all the rest of it. But you're like 2 years older than me. So you were basically a kid yourself. Like, what was it like to be on such a massive stage at such a young age?
I tell you what, you get a lot of street cred at school for going to Melbourne for a few weeks to go and compete at the Commonwealth Games. What's really funny about that is because I was still at school at the time for GCSE year. So with travelling to Australia, you obviously need to be there for a period before to acclimatise before the games. So I was out in Australia for, I think, 4.5, 5 weeks for the Commonwealths. And then we went straight to Perth afterwards to compete in the Australian age groups, which
Wow.
is completely different. It's like a bit of a come down from the Commonwealth Games going and swimming in age groups. But it actually took me out of school in that period for about 10 weeks before my GCSEs. And my brother was at the same school as me. And because when I was fortunate enough at those Commonwealth Games to be part of the relay squads that won medals, every time that my brother would go into the kind of class, people would stand up and give him a standing ovation. And he was so embarrassed about it.
No way.
At the time, it was so exciting for me. I remember qualifying in Swansea. So I went to Swansea. It was like a last chance saloon. They had 2 qualifyings and I didn't qualify the first time round. So I went to Swansea for the second time round and managed to qualify then, which was amazing. And it didn't even register with me at the time what the like magnitude of it, of being that age, away for that long, and like all the ins and outs of it. I was just like, yeah, I'm going to the Commonwealth Games. This is epic. It's so exciting. I'm going to Australia. Like, can't wait. And then being part of a squad where I think I was the youngest by a few years as well. It made it's quite hard to then try and fit in because you're at a different level of everything to everybody else on the team, apart from your swimming skills. That's the only thing really that you've got in common as like a 16-year-old girl with like other people that are 18, 19, 20. But it was an amazing experience. And the guys that I was on the team with then are still my friends now. So it just was a massive bonding experience, a massive insight into being in a games environment. It's my first international competition. I'm going to an actual so being in a village with all of our athletes, eating in a dining hall, doing too much walking, taking in too much sights. It was actually incredible. And the fact that it was in Australia as well, where swimming's so big, it gave me just a different insight to the sport altogether, because we'd be on the bus on the way to the pool and on the radio, there'd be like a pros and cons about Libby Trickett's schedule and doing too much, or is she going to win 7 gold medals? And there's people actually debating swimming on the live radio on the way to the pool. Amazing. That's just
it's amazing.
This is incredible. It was all just going over my head, just enjoyment at that stage, which is one of the things as I got further on in my career. We always said, me and my last coach, that if you had the naivety still of your first meet, it's a great skill to have, is that naivety of everything's fresh, everything's new, everything's exciting. You can't at this point fail. So if you could take and bottle that and just keep that throughout your career, it'd be an amazing skill.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that later, actually, about just the difference in mentality towards, a competition at that kind of age compared to sort of 10, 11 years later. But let's go right back to the start then. So, I mean, you mentioned school just then and your brother being at school. Where did you grow up and what was your first swimming club? When did you first get into swimming?
So I grew up in Banks, which is a tiny little village outside a town called Southport in the northwest of England, which then in turn sits outside of the city of Liverpool. So I started swimming quite late, really. I started swimming at 8 at a club, one of my local clubs, Ormskirk Otters, that my auntie was a member of because she swam at national championships and things like that. So I all of a sudden said to my parents, I want to go swimming. So they took me for a trial at Ormskirk. And I did this trial. I couldn't put my head in the water or turn it to breathe or anything like that. And they basically said to me, you're okay at backstroke, so we'll give you a shot at being in the squad. So I was like, okay, good, brilliant. But literally everybody else my age was in the pool doing training sessions. I had to be taken into the kiddie pool to learn how to turn my head to breathe properly. And I seriously couldn't get it. The timing of it took me ages to get. And at 8, when everybody else your age is doing things that you're not, it was horrendous. But once I finally mastered that and mastered turning my head to breathe and getting my timings right for everything, my career just kind of then went, it snowballed really from that age. And yeah, so as I say, I started at Ormskirk Otters, so just outside Southport in Ormskirk, then started in the Liverpool squad. So did until 2008 my first Olympics training at Liverpool, which was really good fun. And my coach at Liverpool and throughout those years was incredible. He made it very much about, we can't beat Fran into the ground or she's not going to be here in 10 years time. She'll leave the sport. If I try and adhere to making Fran do 50k a week now, she's not going to be here. So he really was really good at standing his ground on what I needed and what I needed to do. And we were training in 33 and a third yard pools in Westminster, which is like literally one of like the most deprived areas of Liverpool. I was getting the bus there with like my pocket money to like go swimming from school in like one of the roughest areas of Liverpool in a 33 and a third yard pool, like cockroaches coming down the lane lines. It subsequently goes down because I think it's like a health risk. But it was amazing, really. But I loved it. And up until 2008, when I was 18, all that period of training at Liverpool was absolutely incredible. I obviously got taken away on training camps with British Swimming, so I got talent ID'd quite young. There was quite a good programme for that when I was coming through. There was Bill Sweetenham set in place a very specific criteria for highlighting young talent and bringing them through the system and exposing them to events abroad, training camps abroad, this, that, and the other. So they were quite heavily involved. But as I said, Colin, my coach at the time, was very much, we're not pushing Fran too far. Otherwise, she's not going to be here after she's 18. She'll go do something else. So it was really good experience up until then of being at Liverpool. I was there when they opened their first 50-metre pool at Wavertree, so I got to train in that for 6 months before the Olympic Games in Beijing. And then after Beijing, which was amazing, I moved to Loughborough and spent the rest of my career based at Loughborough, basically.
Yeah. That sounds amazing. I'm really interested by what you said about just, it was so much fun, when you were at Liverpool before, and we kind of talked earlier about, what would you take? Would you take a great environment and sort of minimalist facilities, or would you rather have amazing facilities, but maybe compromise on the environment? Sounds like for you the environment's more important, and it sounds like the environment was perfect for you.
Exactly, and I buy in massively to be high performing at anything. You've just got to do the best you can where you are with what you've got, and that's the most important thing. So if you're enjoying it, you're having fun, and you're doing the best you can with everything else that you've got, you're going to be high performing. It doesn't matter if that's in the pool, if that's like at work, or if that's doing anything. Like you can be good at something if you're enjoying yourself, I think. And it was a really fun period of my career, and I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of up to Beijing. It was literally incredible. And it helped, I think, as well, that I didn't really have any big failures in that period, which in hindsight, moving forward in my career, is probably not a great thing. But at the time, it was just, I'd go to nationals, I'd win nationals, I'd go to Commonwealth Games, my first Commonwealth Games, come back with medals, go to my first European Championships, come back with medals. There wasn't really a big failing, and I qualified for my first Olympics that I was expected to first time, made finals, which was a great achievement. So up until then, it was a pretty easy ride for me, really, in terms of everything just came quite naturally and quite easy, and it was all fun and games. And then, like, as I started to get on in my career, obviously, like, my biggest failing then was at London, probably, and that was a massive shock to me, to my system, to like my brain system didn't know how to compute London at all at the time, because I hadn't had any big failings up until then. Like, after Beijing, I went to the World Championships in Rome and won silver medal in the 100 freestyle. Then the next year was the Commonwealth Games. I got really sick, but still came away with, I think, 5 medals. And then, like, literally, the only failing was then the World Championships after that, which was probably the prerequisite to me not being really that good in London, where I think I'd had ankle surgery in the winter, during winter training, so I missed all winter training. Went into Shanghai World Championships in 2011, really underprepared, and ended up in the centre lane for the final of the 100 freestyle, not knowing in like any way, shape or form how I got there or what I was doing there, because I hadn't expected it. And then came fourth at that meet. And that was like a real, like, oh, that wasn't good. This is what like failing feels like. And that then in turn created a lot of added pressure on London the next year for me. And like, coming out of London without a medal, I was a broken person. I just didn't know how to deal with failure. I didn't have any resilience built up at that time. So I had to completely reassess my whole career then and who I was. I thought that people only liked me because I was a good swimmer, which when you say it out loud is absolutely nuts. But that's what, like, my whole career, I'd had no failings. So I'd just built up this persona of Fran the swimmer. So it was like rebuilding yourself from scratch that's not centered around Fran the swimmer. It's actually, why am I here? Why am I doing this? So actually the last 4 years of my career, from London to Rio, I learned the most about myself, about swimming, about what actually brought out the best in me from swimming, and like all the skills that I needed that I now use outside of swimming were all actually developed in that year post London, when I like thought that I was the biggest failure on planet Earth and shouldn't step in a swimming pool again, to then like competing and being once bitten, twice shy and competing in Rio. So it's been an eventful career, I suppose, but mainly the back half of it. The front half, as I said, Liverpool was incredible, just good fun.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story, and obviously only you know kind of what, I guess, what you went through and how you felt as well about your swimming. But it just shows that you built yourself back up, because you could have stopped, you could have quit, or even just dragged along for another 6 months, a year, and then just thought, you know what, this is not for me anymore. But you didn't. You carried on 4 more years, another Olympic Games, and then you even went a little bit beyond that as well. So that's a credit to you for carrying on, going a new environment, obviously in Loughborough as well. So yeah, so kudos to you for sure. Yeah. So freestyle and fly are definitely your main strokes, right? Also some backstroke as well. But were you always stroke specific, if you like, or were you more sprint specific? Were you just like a sprinter, or were you, I just want to do freestyle and fly?
Do you know what? This is so funny, because when I was growing up, I was trying to, like, British women were trying to shoehorn me into being a 200 freestyle swimmer.
Right.
So it was 200 freestyle. Then I ended up on a 200 IM camp, because they were like, if you can do freestyle, butterfly, and backstroke, then surely we can get to breaststroke as well.
Just recover on breaststroke.
Been on a backstroke national camp, so like, because they do national stroke camps, I've been on a national backstroke camp. So maybe my problem was that I was a jack of all trades, not a master of one. But I got to the point where I can swim the strokes. Like, breaststroke I can't do at all, but backstroke originally was like my event, really. When I was a junior, I was a backstroker. The British Swimming wanted me to be part of the 4x2 team, so I got shoehorned into doing more 200 freestyles. But my comfort zone was the 100 and the 50, really. I found it really difficult to pace a 200, because I found that when I tried to relax, I'd sink. So then I would be like thrashing through the water. And it'd be just as hard as swimming fast. And then if I swam fast, I'd be dead on the last 50. So absolutely no way to swim a 200 that suited my stroke and just suited me. So like it had to be the 100 down, and it was always freestyle. I had like it in my head that being the fastest woman in the world is all that mattered to me. So 50, 100 freestyle was the only event in the swimming program that actually mattered. That's a pure sprinter thing to say, that, isn't it? And like it's the glory event. Who cares about anything else? You just want to be the fastest woman in the water. So that was kind of my driver behind being a freestyler. And then just to mix up my training, I did sets butterfly, sets backstroke because I could, and it was working the same systems, but it was just doing them different strokes. So I've always liked to add into my training. So with Ben Chitley, when I first moved to Loughborough, he's one of the most genius like programmers that I've ever come across in terms of making sessions really engaging, really interesting, really diverse. And we used to mix up sets, freestyle butterfly sprint sets. I'd do a set of, it'd be 4 100s freestyle at 30 below, 475s fly at 20 below, 450s again fly at like race pace, and then 425s from a dive freestyle max. So we build in the different strokes to my sets and just make them like really interesting. And that's when I probably got better at butterfly. It was when I joined Ben's squad because he integrated it more into my training program. And yeah, I liked it as well because when you go into an event and I had the fly in there, I had the backstroke in there, it's a gauge of where you're at without feeling under too much pressure to perform in it, because I was never expected to like win anything at 100 fly or 50 backstroke, and occasionally I did, which was great, but it was like a bit of a bonus for me, away from my calls and the freestyles. So I just enjoyed being able to have a go at it all and race different people. And yeah, and nationally in the UK, I found it quite challenging, like getting up for meets at the end, because it was a bit hard when I thrive on the competition of having people close to me and like having a real like head to head battle. Like obviously the Campbell sisters in my event were amazing, Randy Kramer, Jojo, Sarah Sjostrom. So there's a really good crop of talent all around the same age group as me that were like pushing on internationally. But then nationally, we didn't really have a strength in depth when it came to sprint swimming. So actually going to trials and trying my hand at fly or trying my hand at backstroke got me more engaged than the freestyle events did, which sounds really bad to admit, but that's just how like it actually was like, right, it's a real good competition in this event, so I'm here to compete. And it got my mind in the right mindset for the event by being able to do the different strokes.
Yeah. Again, I mentioned earlier about how you built yourself back up. You're clearly very smart as a swimmer because what you've just said there about coming up with different strategies, I suppose, to get yourself up for it. A lot of swimmers wouldn't think like that. They'd be thinking, well, no, because I'm a 100 free, 50 freestyle swimmer, that's it. But you've kind of, thought of ways to get yourself going, to get yourself pumped up, and that's a credit to you. That's really good. You mentioned Ben a minute ago. Who were your coaches throughout once you kind of went full time?
Yeah, so I kind of started obviously at Liverpool with Colin Stripe, and he was the first coach that took me to Beijing. And then straight from there, I moved to Loughborough and trained with Ben, who Ben coached at Loughborough for a while before I joined. And I used to join his group on training camps when they'd go away before I actually joined the full program. Have Mel Marshall, who's now Adam Peaty's coach, was in the squad at the time. James Gibson, who ended up being my coach, he was in the squad at the time. Liam Tancock, Caitlin McClatchy. So he had a really good crop.
That's an amazing crop of swimmers. Amazing crop.
It was just like next level that you got to train with all these people every day. And they were all superstars at certain things in different ways. Like I remember doing a kick set with Caitlin McClatchy, and we'd be going the same speed, but she'd have like shoes on kicking, whilst I was just normal kicking. She was that incredible at kick. Like literally, there was certain skills that people had that just pushed you to the next level. It was great to be surrounded by all those guys from being 18, 19 years old and seeing how professional they were, how their approach to training was, like what their diet was like, and being in that more professional environment than I was in Liverpool. It was a real eye-opener, but it gave me the ability then to try and push on again and understand things that I hadn't understood in the past. And Ben as a coach, how he planned his training schedules and programs was literally, it was, genius, really. He's like an absolute training session genius. If you could ever get your hands on anybody who was in that squad at the time's logbooks and just do some of the sessions, like, you'd absolutely love him. I would say I'd share it, but I didn't keep logbooks. I have no help in that sense. But Lizzie Simmons is probably the girl to go to for that.
No, that sounds great. I'm really interested to hear what your training was like at that kind of age. That kind of young, late teens, early 20s. So, more near the start of your career. And we'll talk later on about maybe how training changed over the years for you. But looking back, as I say, you're kind of mainly 150 sprinter, but it kind of tried to get you doing 200. So what was training like for you in terms of weekly miles and the types of stuff you were doing?
Yeah, so when I was younger, when I was at Liverpool, I was hitting about 30, 35k a week. That was what I did. And I just started implementing some gym the year before Olympics in 2008. So that'd be 2007 season. With a gym coach. So I used to go twice a week to do gym. And then I'd do, I think, 8 or 9 sessions a week in the pool, but averaging 35k. It'd be very like literally traditional, like Monday night you'd be doing aerobic work, Tuesday morning you'd do another like aerobic session, threshold Tuesday night, and then sprint session Thursday night. So with key sessions throughout the weeks, bit of threshold, bit of speed. And then as I moved to Ben's squad, so when I was about 19, 20, I was hitting probably 40 to 55k. So I upped my mileage and up the gym aspect as well. So we were in the gym 3 to 4 times a week. We'd be doing loads of different cross training in pre-season. We went rock climbing once a week. We were doing trampetting at one point. We were doing boxing at another point. Like, Ben liked to change up what you were doing on land. And then in the water, we'd do a horrendous Christmas block of 2 weeks where we could do 90, 100k weeks that Ben just wanted us to do so we could go and enjoy Christmas properly. But that was, the most horrendous points with those 2 weeks leading into Christmas. But that was, it was very like traditional. It was like a lot of fartlecky type working during that time of, as I said, we'd do 4 100s, 300 recovery, 475s, another 300 recovery, 450s recover, 425 recover. So there's always enough recovery to be able to hit the speeds that you needed to hit. So we did a lot of race pace work and working with beepers in our hats to make sure that our stroke rate was on point at our actual race pace stroke point. So there's a lot of race pace stuff in that part of my career, which I could do at the time, and getting up to 50, 55k was absolutely fine. And I was like really, really fit during that period. Not very strong, but very fit to be able to complete 100 meters and a 200 when needed, basically. It was, funnily enough, I think that from then, doing the breadth of 35 to 50k weeks with the 100k weeks thrown in there occasionally, it gave me the base then for the next 4 years of my career that I'd already got that base. I didn't need to carry on doing that because I'd already got the base. So I was just refining my sprinting, making sure my skills were on point. We did a lot more skills focused and strength focused in the next 4 years of my career, which was what I needed at the time. And also something that, because I'd already had the base of quite a lot of training, that I could do. Like, if you just went in and were doing 25,000 meters a week with a load of gym, you probably wouldn't get anywhere. But because the base was already there and in place from years of being on British swimming camps where you couldn't do under 5k a session and that kind of stuff, it was there to be able to not focus as much on that and focus more on the refining of the skills needed to sprint fast, because everyone thinks that sprinting a 50 meters a splash and dash, that you don't have to think about anything. But actually, like, your head position not being in the right place for a 50 sprint makes more of a difference than it does on anything else. And actually moving your body to rotate, to breathe on a 50 is just taking your body out of line. You need everything to be like really slick and your technique to be absolutely perfect. And the technique that I used for my 53, I couldn't use for 100 or 200 freestyles. It ruined my shoulders. So if I was swimming distances, my technique would be completely different and just deteriorate. So it was just ruining my technique doing meters at this point when I was specifically focusing on sprinting. So most of the time it'd be getting easy drills, making sure your technique's right, swim really fast, get strong. There's occasional blocks, don't get me wrong, where it'd be you doing 30 50s off 30 seconds to kind of, build up your base. Yeah, that was fun. Like literally just holding 28s for 50s, 30. Yeah, that was minging. Yeah, they were just doing the general grunt work that you've got to do occasionally. But most of the time it was very, very niche skills. I mean, on a Wednesday morning, I'd get to the pool, I'd do a warm up, and I'd do 6 recorded starts, and it'd just be all about those starts, like measuring how explosive I was off the block, my angles of my shins, my hands going into the water, feet position, how like my streamline's looking compared to what it was. Is this having my hands at different positions? Is it creating more velocity, less velocity? So there was really niche sessions in there. It was literally 6 starts, but I knew that for my 50 freestyle, if I didn't get to 15 meters within 6.1 seconds or under, I wasn't in the race to win it. So it was a massive part of my race. So that was mega important to me rather than getting in and doing loads of meters. And it's just like, it was a completely different mindset than it was earlier on.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. And thinking back now, what were the things that you enjoyed the most? Because I can imagine there's lots of swimmers. I can imagine Adam Peaty, for example, is he just loves getting in there, killing himself because he likes how it feels. And then there will be other people who just love the skills. They love slowing it down, working on really specific details. What sort of camp do you sit in?
I think there's a place for both. And I think that one of my problems was like pushing myself too hard, that I broke too much. So there's a very fine balance between pushing yourself and pushing yourself over the edge. And for somebody in my event that was quite slight at the time, unfortunately not anymore, but at the time quite slight, it's like easy to push yourself further than you probably should do, more than you should.
Yeah.
So I was like riddled with injuries, like consistently from being really in shape all year round and doing lots of fast, hard stuff. So actually, a balance, I think, is perfect. But what's really hard as an athlete is knowing when to say, okay, I'm done now. And what was really good was my last 4 years with James Gibson as a coach. We had this rule that if you were sick or if you were ill or if something was up, it's like a 72-hour just chill out period. Like, not come to the pool and see how you're going to get on. It was go home, rest, because otherwise we're going to make it linger and make you worse. So that was a really good learning point for me, was like, you don't have to be on every day. And if something is up, like, don't try and push through it. Give yourself time, because otherwise you're just going to prolong how long you're ill for, how long you're injured for. So just do a bit of a circuit breaker approach and say, right, 72 hours, then we're back in the game. And that worked for the last 4 years of my career way better. And the focus on skills and drills and understanding how your body is in the water was like, I wish I'd known it sooner, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I tell you what, I'd love to do a session under James, because he sounds like the best coach in the world to me. Everything I've heard about him, obviously from yourself, from other people, I've spoke to him on this podcast before as well. He just sounds like he's got it. He's got it all down. It just sounds amazing. I'm really interested to. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say he really does, and like for me, he taught me how to be like a proper swimmer, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like he instilled more knowledge in me of swimming and how it works and how like strategy works for racing and all that side of things, that massively helped me. And I understood why I was doing things more and the intricacies of stuff. So I took more ownership then, because he shared the knowledge of that with me. So yeah, nothing but praise for James and his coaching. He's absolutely fantastic.
Really nice guy as well, which always helps. I'm interested to know what life is like as a full-time swimmer outside of the pool. So you'll have sponsors, so I'm sure you've got certain obligations that you have to kind of meet there. But also when you're not doing stuff like that, what does life look like? Is it just a whole load of chilling out and recovery, or do you get like, were you studying? Like, so what was life like out of the pool?
It's so sponsors' commitments are an interesting one because they tend to ramp up at times you don't want them to ramp up at. So it's always around Olympics, basically, or a big event that there's loads of people wanting your time, and balancing that is quite hard. And during London, it was carnage. Every business in the whole entire UK wanted to be a part of London. So you're being pulled left, right, and centre while trying to focus on training as well. So managing that is quite difficult. You've got to be quite selfish with your time and make sure there is a balance, because at the end of the day, you need sponsorship to be able to like do what you're doing, really. Or so you've kind of got to adhere to the opportunities that are in front of you, but at the same time balance that with not being too knackered for training. And most of the time it was just complete chilling out. For most of my career I lived with another swimmer. So when I first moved to Loughborough, I lived with Lizzie Simmons, and then I lived with Georgia Davis as well, to backstroke Georgia for
Yeah.
like under James. So we just used to we had like we had a co-op across the road from where we lived, and on like a Saturday night it'd just be not going out, we'd just be staying in and just getting donuts and doing nothing. Like literally, it was quite funny because the year after I finished swimming, I got asked by New Balance to run the New York Marathon as one of their ambassadors. And then I was literally like, everybody thought that as an ex-athlete, you'd be really good at this. But the actual difference between running and swimming training is insane. And I'm sure it's a different energy system. But I was thinking back to my swimming days and the fact that I barely did any other exercise or movement that wasn't in the pool or in the gym. So I was thinking, I've never stood up for 4 hours, never mind run for 4 hours. Like, this is insane. So it's literally recovery. Your whole life's based around recovery and trying not to do things in that like period of time during training where it's going to impact the next week. It's always Sunday night, right? I need to be ready for Monday morning. So Saturday morning, finish training, and it's recovery phase. But then obviously you get a nice August off in the summer, which is a month to do what you want with until you get back in. So that always goes a bit rogue.
Yeah. So, I mean, three Olympic Games. You touched on London earlier and how that was quite a pivotal moment in your career. Also, a number of Commonwealth Games, European Championships, World Championships. What was your favourite competition that you did? I guess a lot of that be based on maybe your performance, but also on how you enjoyed the actual, the meet, the environment.
Yeah, so Beijing was incredible. Absolutely loved it. Loved the swimming part of it and loved like being there and the experience of the first Olympics. Like as I was saying earlier, the naivety of first times and things has got a special spark to it. And going to your first Olympics has a massive special moment there that you just don't get again, no matter how good the games are. That's just like a one-off. My one of 2009 Rome is probably up there for me. Probably wasn't expected to get a medal, never mind a silver in the 100 free. It was beautiful setting. The pool in Rome is
The pool's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Literally in the atmosphere. It was like a gladiatorial stadium that they built around the pool. It was outdoors in the height of summer in Rome, so everyone's got like beautiful tans, enjoying the sunshine. Crowds going nuts because Federica Pellegrini's swimming incredible. There's obviously the suits are like full in flow then, so there's world records going nearly every other event. So it's like a party atmosphere around the pool, which was unbelievable. And then to obviously get a medal, and then Liam got the world record, who was my training partner. Like it was just like one of the best experiences ever. And that whole time, the drama of the suits as well just added to how much fun it was, because you're in the changing rooms 45 minutes before trying to get this bloody suit on your race. Literally, it was all that surrounded it as well, made it even more fun because everyone's in the same boat. In like, it's like, what, 32 degrees, you're trying to pull a rubber suit on, your hands are all broken, like if you pull it too hard, it snaps and you just
Rip,
wasted
yeah.
half an hour and can't get another one on in the time frame. Everybody's just rushing to the blocks because they're late. It was incredible good fun. And then my other one, like a standout moment for me, was Glasgow Commonwealth Games. Like, I think that was the most in my flow as Fran swimming that I've ever been in my career. And
Interesting.
yeah, the performances there that I did were just came so naturally to me that it was just like a really eye-opening moment of when you're not thinking too much and just doing you, how good you can actually be. So that was just like, I only got positive vibes from Glasgow.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you next, actually, when do you feel like you're at your best? And I guess your answer would be that. I was going to ask in terms of more just a period in your career, like an age, or because I'd be interested to know if you felt like you were at your best when you were younger, or maybe a little bit older after years of experience, and like you said earlier, miles in the bank and all that kind of stuff.
It was it went in peaks and troughs, not pigs and troughs, peaks and troughs. You were on pigs and troughs. That's not going to be any highs, is it?
It never smells nice.
So it was really like something. Just some seasons just clicked, and if I reflect on why, it's that I'm enjoying it the most. So 2009 was my first year in Loughborough that season. So I've gone after September 2008, summer 2009 is the World Championships. My first year in Loughborough. I'm 18, 19 years old. I'm in a uni environment. I'm having fun like most of the time. I'm getting taken away on all these really cool training camps now that I'm in the British swimming setup. So I'm having a great time. So the swimming just happened. It wasn't like got my head down and did anything different or harder. The swimming took care of itself. Fran was happy. So it was kind of that mindset, and it was the same in 2014 up to Glasgow. I remember James, like who was my coach at the time, after trials, I didn't swim very well at those trials. I don't even think I got the qualifying time, so I got taken on basically. Let's hope Fran does okay on the day, more than actually getting the qualifying time to go. And he said to me, he's like, if you don't sort yourself out, you're not gonna do anything at Commonwealth. And I didn't even take it in. But it just went straight over my head at the time because we had a great training squad. I was living with Georgia, like my front door was always open, so there'd be people coming around for dinner all the time. We'd be playing cards around the table as a squad. Just had an amazing environment. We went to, I shouldn't probably say this, but we were in France at a meet, and like the last night went out for dinner, drank a bit too much red wine, and then so all this in that year, which would suggest maybe you're not focused 100% on delivering results in the pool, actually gave me the best results of my career. I swim better, or no, I swim better when it's more of a relaxed state, not a grrr, I'm going to be really good, so I'm going to swim really fast. Because when I got into that state, I tried too hard. And when I tried too hard, my whole stroke fell apart.
Absolutely.
And I didn't swim fast. So it was more the states of flow of being like, I'm here having a great time. I've done all the training. I know how that's going to go because I can't control that now. I've done my best. Was the years that I had the best successes and swam probably my best.
Just before we touch on your retirement, just to kind of sum up your time in the water as a full-time swimmer, what kind of a swimmer were you? So if I'm a coach, or you think of the coaches that you had, like how do they get the best out of Fran Halsall?
That's a good question. Explaining to me why I'm doing stuff. I find it really difficult to get on board if I'm not told what the point is and why. So
would you challenge coaches?
Yeah, which got me in trouble on a couple of occasions. But I feel like to get the best out of me, I needed to know why I was doing something and what it was going to do for my progress. How am I going to get better by doing this? How many times do I need to do it to get better? What are the little things that go around this that I should be doing to get better? So I needed the information to swim well. And that was kind of, it was asking. If you asked James, I probably asked why a bit too much, and maybe in an aggressive way sometimes. He thought it was me saying I'm not doing it, but actually it was me saying I need to know why I'm doing this so I can get 100% on board to do it. So yeah, I think they'd say I asked a lot of questions, but I always gave it my best shot, I think would be what they said. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
sounds good. So thinking about your retirement then, it was early 2017, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how old were you then? Sort of late 20s?
I was 26, going to turn
26.
27 in the April. So
Yeah.
I, after Olympics, it's kind of an interesting one really because you don't really know what's going to happen in terms of the setup for squads. And my squad at Loughborough with James was great. James's role at Loughborough wasn't guaranteed anymore, so I didn't know what James was doing or where he was going. He subsequently ended up going to Turkey. So I made the choice to move back to Liverpool. My other half was playing rugby for St Helens Rugby League team at the time, so made sense for the next year or so move back to Liverpool, see how I felt, and then decide what I wanted to do after a year. And I kind of started back in training again. My last meet was, I don't even know if it's still called the Arena League, but it was one of the local Arena League rounds at
Yeah.
Macclesfield Swimming Pool,
Nice.
which after having 5 months off and not having a racing suit on and doing it in your togs, getting beaten by I think person 10 years younger than me, a 16-year-old on a 100 fly short course was a real like eye-opening point of my life. Like, okay, Fran, like it's going to take a lot to get back to where A, you were, and B, the only reason to carry on now is to win an Olympic medal. And that was like the thought process was, if I'm going to go on, I'm only going to go on to go to Tokyo, and I'm only going on because I missed a medal by 2/100ths of a second.
Mm.
And is that enough reason to carry on swimming? And it took a bit of like soul searching in the fact that I had a really good career. I really enjoyed my career. Do I think I'm not a successful swimmer because I didn't win an Olympic medal? I've had those thoughts at times. The only thing that matters is an Olympic medal, so anything else is irrelevant, which I now don't think's the case. I think that if you're the best in the world at something, or top 20 in the world at something, top 50 in the world at something, bloody better than like a lot. So why is this Olympic medal so like much more making you good at something than the rest of your career? I kind of had the epiphany that I didn't need an Olympic medal to be satisfied with what I'd done and what I'd achieved. And if I didn't have that drive then, I wasn't going to get one anyway. So it was a case of I'm ready to hang up my goggles now and see what else I can do with my life. And I've got to a point where I'm in a pretty good place with work and also with my purpose now, because I think it's hard when you come out of sport as an elite sports person and your whole life's been taking up one thing, is to find another purpose. And it really took me some time, and I got a bit irritated at times that I hadn't found it quick enough. But like my mission now is to prove that like ex-swimmers, ex-athletes at any sport can like take those skills into a completely different industry, completely different sector, and be successful in that. And you can use those skills to build a career in corporate world in X, Y,
Yeah.
Z industry, and it is doable. So that's kind of my purpose at the moment, to be able to, in 10 years' time, go back into sport and say, like, look, you can do anything you want off the back of the skills that you've learned in sport. This is what I've done and how I've done it. And if anybody needs any help and advice on how to do that, I'm here. So that's my little
Yeah.
personal mission now.
That's brilliant, and I'm so glad that you feel good about your career, and that you don't have these kind of regrets around Olympic medals. Because let's just lay it out right now. You had a 11-year career, and I know swimmers who made an Olympic team or a Commonwealth team, maybe got to heats. Now that's amazing. That's way more than I could ever have wished to have done in the pool. But you went to 3 Olympic. You kept going one after the other. 11 years, you've got 2 British records at long course that still stand now. the 53 and the 50 fly, 23.96 for your 53, 25.20 for your 50 fly.
I was
You
so
got
good
four,
back in the day, wasn't I?
you were insane. You were insane. Four British records still stand on short course as well. So you've got six British records still to your name. Um, like I say, Olympic Games after Olympic Games. That is one hell of a career, whether you got an Olympic medal or not. It's truly stunning. So well done.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And I didn't realise my British records were still standing. They must be nearly 10 years
Oh,
old.
they still stand. They still stand. Yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting. So maybe I should have carried on to Tokyo and seen if I could
yeah.
pass that.
No. Well, I'll tell you what. That was going to be my next question. Actually, is just to kind of wrap up. Have you got any? Obviously, I don't want to end this on a negative, but do you have any regrets from your time as a swimmer?
I think the only thing that I would have done differently would be to go out to the States and swim in the States for a few years. And I think the reason for that is because the camaraderie around being in a big program in America, where, as everybody knows, the facilities are amazing over there, get to swim outdoors for most of the year, you're getting a great education alongside it. And it's something that I had the opportunity to do and didn't take up. And at the time, I didn't really want to rock the boat with what I was doing and the progression I was on and how well I was doing at home. And would that actual training setup suit me being in a big program? Like, as I said, in Loughborough, it's a very elite group of a small number of people.
Mm.
So you get a lot of attention, a lot of one-on-one time, a lot of things that are really suited to you. Would I have fitted into a bigger program where it's a one size fits all more of approach? There's not really as much like individualized programming. Maybe not. That's what I thought at the time. But if I could go back, I'd have gone out and experienced that. And if I hadn't have liked it, then I could have always come home, couldn't I? But I didn't actually do it at the time, and I wish I had have done because I think it'd have been a real great experience. And like you can only really get a scholarship to go do that as an athlete. So like,
Yeah.
why would you not embrace that opportunity that's put in front of you? So that'd be the one thing that I regret, and probably yeah. And if I thought about it, there'd probably be one about wearing the wrong colour suit at a swimming competition as well and getting in trouble for it. But hey,
Brilliant. Well,
myself.
yeah, absolutely. Well, look, you had a fantastic career, and what you're up to now. You mentioned that you're kind of in the corporate world. So what does life look like now for you?
So I now work at Babcock Group. So they are a big defence contractor. They look after the dockyards at Devonport for submarines and frigates and up on Clyde. So I'm very much in the nuclear sector, which for me I found really interesting because I knew nothing about how a nuclear reactor works when I started in this industry. And I'm surrounded and amazed every day by the engineers that I get to work with and the like things that they're working on and coming up with is incredible. And most of it, that's why my hair's so big because I'm just getting too much information coming in at me at all times. But it's a really purposeful thing that I'm doing now because like creating net zero by 2040 is a massive ask and it's going to take a mix of energy sources to do that. So being part of the people trying to come up with a solution to that is mega important from a social value, ESG perspective. And then also from the like defence side, keeping the world safe and secure is massively purposeful as well. And being part of that and making sure that we're delivering that and making sure the Royal Navy are being able to be at sea in great ships is massively important. So I found something that's really purposeful. And I think that's what I needed when I finished swimming. I needed having because when I swim it, my purpose was to be the fastest swimmer in the world, which is dead short, dead simple, something I can get behind. And like now I've got that again of helping create a net zero like world and also keeping it safe and secure. And that just for me is like right purpose. I can get up every day and buy into that and give my best for that. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And it's quite funny because occasionally new people I'll be on a call with and they'll be like, oh my God, I recognise you.
Brilliant.
Which like is quite awkward sometimes, but also quite entertaining.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, laugh it up, absolutely.
It's like I've gone home and told my kids I was on a call with Fran Halsall today. They were like mega impressed. Like, oh God.
Brilliant. No, so well, all sounds really good. And final question is, do you still swim? Will we ever see you at a master swimming competition?
I tell you what, last summer I got into open water swimming, so
Ah,
which is nuts considering I was a 50-meter pool princess for most of my career. I literally started to enjoy my Saturday mornings going to my local lake at Pickmere, just outside Knutsford, and doing some laps around there. And it's just, I find it quite relaxing and tranquil and enjoyable. So you might see me do like a triathlon at some point.
mm.
I don't know whether master swimming, I don't think I'll be able to compete with you guys.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you'd have to get like right back into the kind of mindset of it all. And I guess if you've left it and you're doing something completely new now, and actually open water swimming's lovely. You said yourself that it's really relaxing. So it's a completely different sport, isn't it? It's a completely different environment to being in a swimming pool training.
It is, but it's quite nice when you get in and actually, because I'm actually really bad at all of the land-based activities. So actually being able to get in the pool, being half decent at something is quite an
Yeah,
ego stroke occasionally. When I'm feeling bad and down, I'm like, right, let's just go for an open water swim to make yourself feel better.
brilliant. I love it. I love it. Well, listen, thank you very much. That was I really enjoyed that chat, and I said it at the start, and I will repeat it again. You're an absolute swimming legend. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
No, thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
Cheers.